Welcome to Explorer Classroom. My name is Gibbs Kuguru. I'm a shark scientist, National Geographic explorer, and your host for today. We're so excited to have you join us. At National Geographic, we believe that anyone can be an explorer and that you have the power to make a difference in the world no matter how old you are. Welcome back to those of you who have been joining us for the wildlife series. And I'm glad to see so many familiar faces here today. So thank you for joining us on our journey to learn about wildlife globally while taking action locally. And before we get into today's lesson, I'd like to welcome all of the following classes who are joining us today, especially Pinewood Elementary School from California, USA, Lenox Elementary School from Oregon, USA, Farquhar Homeschool from Canada, 20 Wells Elementary from Utah, USA, and ISD 94 from Minnesota, USA. Welcome, everyone. Okay, so today's explorer is Eshika Fyzee. Eshika is a documentary and environmental filmmaker who emphasizes conservation in all of her work. She has hiked through the Himalayas, filmed a variety of wildlife, and worked with local communities while producing films. Today, Eshika will take us into the world of wildlife filmmaking by telling us about her recent work documenting wild Asian elephants and their journey across human-made borders. She's also going to share with us why storytelling, like making films, is important for wildlife conservation. Eshika lives in the city of Mumbai, India, and her current field work is filming wild elephants, taking her into communities and forests in Siliguri, West Bengal. It's a region in East India in an area that's quite rich in biodiversity with different species of plants and animals. We're so excited to have Eshika here with us live today to answer all of your questions. But before we meet Eshika, let's take a look at a short clip of some of the amazing footage that she's captured in the forests of India. Goodness me, I just love seeing all of these wildlife animal societies interacting with each other. Such beautiful footage. And now that we've seen just a glimpse into Ashika's work, let's join her into the field to discover what a day in the life is like for her on the trail tracking wild Asian elephants.
Hi everyone, I'm Eshika Fyzee. I'm a National Geographic explorer and a documentary filmmaker. And here I am in the very dense forests of eastern India, following a very exciting story on migrating elephants. So filmmakers use a massive variety of equipment when we're out on the field. It could be a setup that's as big as a car, as tall as a giraffe, or even something that's as small as a bar of chocolate. So it's basically the story that you want to tell and how you want to tell it that's going to decide the tools that you're going to be using. Okay, so what we have here is elephant dung. Because of the monsoon season, it's been scattered around a little bit and it doesn't really look like dung. It's a big patch over here, but it is. And in simple words, it is elephant poop. Now, I know some of you kids might find this quite gross, but for anyone in the field of wildlife, animal poop is one of the best ways to figure out the direction in which the animal is going, their food habits, when they last visited a particular area, and a lot more information about the hormones and even DNA if it's taken to a lab. So now that we found this dung over here, we can predict that the elephant was on this path at some point, and let's see if we can track any. So here I am sat next to the elephant dung, and of course a very important sign, because the story I'm telling essentially centers around the intersection of humans and the natural world. And this particular project is extremely exciting for me because my team and I are following a herd of elephants as they migrate across from one country to the other. So they're essentially crossing borders, towns, cities, and all the trials and tribulations that come with that migration. Here is another sign. This is a large tree branch that has been sort of toppled over, or pushed over rather, by possibly an elephant. And elephants are called architects or engineers of the forest for a reason, and that's because they clear out pathways in the forest by knocking over branches and sometimes smaller trees to make these pathways for themselves and also other animals. So this was likely done by an elephant, and also another great sign that there are elephants on this route. Okay guys, another fantastic sign. This is the footprint of an elephant. You can see even the grooves where the toenails are, quite fresh. Could be, even a couple hours ago. And because the ground is a bit wet, the impression is quite deep into the ground. So, it's clear for us to see even with these, with these grooves and everything. So yeah, here we are, another fantastic sign. This is my foot in comparison. You can see the scale for reference. That's how large an elephant foot is. And again, this gives us good indication that this elephant was probably traveling this way at some point of time. Okay, so now we're heading back to base camp after a long day of trying to film and find elephants. We've had no luck today, but we try again tomorrow, and yeah, that's what it's all about.
Oh, that's so cool. I love watching the investigative work that Eshika is doing, going through the forest, tracking these elephants. Sadly, she didn't find any this round, but I'm sure she'll have better luck next time. And I can say, as an explorer that also works with wildlife, I've had plenty of days where I haven't seen any of the animals that I've been looking for, but that doesn't mean that I don't stop looking, or that I do stop looking. Anyways, did you guys catch the different clues that Ashika looks for to determine if elephants have recently passed through an area? That's right. So there's a few things she looks for: poop, footprints, broken tree branches. All of these are clear signs that an elephant has walked through an area and can confirm that she's actually on the right track and following them in the right direction. Okay, now students, I have a question for all of you. Teachers, get close to your keyboards so you can answer the question for your class. I want you to close your eyes. I'll give everyone a moment to do that. Now think of a time that you were outside, walking around your neighborhood or park nearby. What clues did you notice that an animal had recently been in that area? Did you see broken tree branches, just like Ashika? Or maybe a nest in a tree? What did you hear or smell that might tell you an animal lives in that area? Okay, students, now I want you to open your eyes. And the question here again is, what clues did you notice that an animal is living in the area that you were just picturing? I'll stay quiet for a second and give you a moment to gather your thoughts and tell your teachers. All right, teachers, please type your students' answers into the chat. I'm very curious to see what's coming up here. From YouTube, Bryson from Foxtown Elementary said he saw a bird's skull. Paw prints from EA 700-347 at nsdstudent.com said paw prints, the room where it happens, dung and footprints. Rhea Edwards said she saw coyote poop. Class 50 says bitten leaves, footprints, scat. Scat is another term for poop. Um, Levers Leapers says a beaver. We saw chewed trees and branches. So that is a sign that the animal had been there, and then an animal encounter thereafter. That is good detective work. I love that. These are all really good answers. I see a lot of dog hair type of answers from Eliso Tarula, footprints, plenty of scat, pet dog, paw prints. These are all great answers. You guys 100% understand how to look for clues in nature for where animals just were. And this is a really great tool if you want to observe wildlife. So really proud of you guys, actually. That's so awesome. And if you weren't able to think of any clues, that's okay too. And next time you walk outside, start looking around or listening for some of these clues and see if you can spot some or even come up with some that we haven't shared with you guys just yet. And remember, no matter where you live, there's always some kind of wildlife around you. Even if you don't have a direct encounter with a wild animal, there are usually some clues that they've been around. Okay, so let's give Eshika a warm welcome to the show. And I can't wait to hear more about her work with elephants. So, Eshika, we are so glad you are here.
Hi, everyone. Hi, kids.
Right on. So, thank you for being with us here today, Eshika. What can you tell us about your exciting work documenting elephants in India?
Okay, so my project is really exciting, and I'm currently working on migrating elephants that migrate from one country to the other. So, what migration basically is, it is the movement of people or animals from one place to another. It could be within the same country, it could be from one country to the other, it could be temporary, it could be permanent, and it also could be due to a number of reasons. So, why do these elephants need to migrate? These elephants need to migrate, the herd that I'm following specifically need to migrate for better food, abundance of water, more land, more space, and also because it's ingrained in their DNA to do so. They've been following this migratory path for many, many, many years. And it's really important in my project to tell the story because I'm telling the story of these elephants as they migrate across human made borders. As you can see in the pictures on your screen, this is a very happy elephant out in the wild. But a lot of their habitat, which is their homes, their forests, and their trees are getting cut down. So they're going to have to cross railway tracks and cities and roads and towns in order to do that same migration. And eventually they have to cross even an international border, which has a physical barrier, a big fence that they have to cross over to get from one side to the other. As you can see, this is a mother and her calf who's crossing a busy highway at night. And this is what happens when these elephants have to make that big migration across these human-made borders. The herds that we are following, the migration that they do is they cross from India and they cross over to Nepal and then back to India. And it's a migration that takes several of months. So that's the project that I'm doing at the moment.
Very cool. So, can you tell us a little bit about the storytelling that you do with the elephants and some of the films you've made?
Yeah, absolutely. And so with these elephants in particular, the storytelling, the medium that I'm using is film, and a documentary is what I'm making. And I'm basically making this documentary because I hope that it's going to accomplish collaboration between both countries, both Nepal and India, to really come together and find a solution to let these elephants migrate peacefully, so that there's lots of harmony for the elephants and for the humans living in that area as well. And so I really hope the film that I make will get people together to find a really strong solution to let these elephants go along their very ancient migratory routes.
Wow, so you're using your filmmaking to raise awareness about the issues these elephants face crossing these insane long journeys and these borders to help protect them, essentially. And it really makes me think about all the human-made barriers that I see around my town and even in my work. So thank you for that kind of approach you're taking. I really love it. Now, I have another question for the students. So teachers, get close to your keyboards again. And now you'll see a poll on your screen in a moment. Right. So we know that Ashika chose to tell a story about elephants. And my question for all of you is, if you were going to tell a story about wildlife in your local area, how would you pick which animal to tell a story about? You can pick more than one option for this poll. The question is, if you're going to tell a story about the wildlife in your local area, how would you pick which animal to tell a story about? All right. I'm seeing quite an even spread when it comes to the answers you guys are giving. And I'm assuming that many of you have chosen multiple different mediums to tell stories. Different ways to tell stories. About half of you actually, or 50% had chosen your favorite animal. A lot of you had also selected an animal with the most interesting facts, but I think most people really wanted to emphasize that they would choose an animal that needs help the most, which I think is I think both, by the way, all of these approaches are great. And great ways to tell stories about animals. Ultimately, as a wildlife person myself, I always just say follow your heart. But Ashika, can you tell us a little bit about how you decided to tell a story and what story to tell?
Yeah, absolutely. And quite honestly, it's very similar to all of your answers. I also choose a story based quite often based on an animal that I find extremely fascinating and that I love the most. Um, and I also make sure that I do research on that animal and I understand the challenges that the animal is facing because I really want to make sure that whatever story I tell, I'm trying to make an impact with that story. So very similar to your answers. I make sure I'm passionate about the animal, the species, and the habitat, and also because I want to make an impact and do something for the species.
Oh, that's stunning. Thank you for sharing that. And honestly, I think we can all take a page out of your book. And I love that approach. Can you tell us about sort of the gear that you're using and the techniques to sort of capture these stories?
Yeah, absolutely. So we filmmakers use a massive variety of equipment when we're out filming on the field. A lot of the time, we have really big, huge, bulky cameras, and sometimes all that we've got on us are a phone. So honestly, it varies so much. But today, I've got a wonderful little camera that I use very often. This is what it looks like. It's quite small. It's called the Sony FX3. And I love this camera because of how small it is. It fits into a small bag, but also takes fantastic videos. And I use that with this lens called this. It's again a Sony lens, which is 200 to 600 which means that it can take videos of animals that are really far away. I can film an animal that's possibly 2 football fields away, or even zoom out to film animals that are closer, even as close as from the back of your classroom to your teacher. So a big range of distances that I can get with this lens, and that really helps me film these animals and be in the moment without having to change lenses. So I just click that on here, and that's my go-to gear.
Right. And can you tell us why do you need a camera that can sort of do both close up and far away?
So when you're telling stories about animals specifically, the moment is everything. You cannot miss the moment. So to have gear or a lens that can do both, that can can take shots of animals that are really far, but also zoom out to film the animal as it's coming closer, or even another animal that's closer. Gives you that versatility without having to waste time finding another lens or finding another piece of equipment that can shoot the animals at different distances. So really, it's all about convenience, and it's all about when you're filming animals, you don't want to lose the moment, and that's why I use this gear.
Right on. I love the brain work that you put into creating this strategy. So thank you for sharing your thoughts and showing us this beautiful camera, by the way, Eshika. It's really fascinating. And it's so important to also be respectful of animals when we're interacting with them, even if it's just taking a picture or shooting a video. Now, students, I have a follow-up question for you. Ashika just shared with us how she picks a story and the camera she uses to find and film the elephants. Now, I want you to imagine that you have identified a wildlife story that you want to tell, and you've done all the research you need to do to tell that story. Now, we know that Ashika tells her story about elephants using her camera and videos, but what about you? What storytelling format would you like to use to tell a story? And you can also pick more than one option from this list. Teachers, you should see a poll on your screen now. Choose an answer that best represents what your class thinks. I'm going to pause and be quiet and give you a minute to think. Let's roll the countdown. All right. There are so many different ways to tell a story, and I think most of you prefer to use photography or filmmaking. And as a very visual person myself, I could not wait till you guys get up and do your own wildlife related work. I'm going to watch all the videos and photos you guys make. So get at it. I'm really looking forward to this. But regardless of the tools you use, it's also important to recognize that you can really tell an exciting story through any medium. So your own creativity is your own limit. Now, speaking about exciting stories, Ishika, I've heard that besides filming elephants in the rainforest, you've also worked with other species up in the snow-covered mountains. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely, Gibbs. I have done some really exciting work up in the Himalayas. A very exciting project I did a couple years ago was when I went right into the depths of the Himalayas, that is the highest mountain range in the world. And I was based in an area called Dras, which is supposed to be one of the coldest inhabited places on our planet. And I was there to tell a really important story on Himalayan brown bears. So we were trekking in knee-deep snow for several days to find this very elusive, beautiful species. And some of the challenges included, us being caught in a snowstorm where we were completely snowed in this little house that the entire crew was staying in this little house, and all of us were very stressed out because we were losing filming days. And we really had to find these bears before they went into hibernation. And for those of you who don't know what hibernation is, it's an incredible physiological process where some animals go into a really deep sleep for sometimes as long as 5 to 6 months, if we're talking about bears. So we really had to find these bears before they went into this very long hibernation over the winter. But finally, we were very lucky. After a few days, the snow stopped and the sun came out, and we started looking for the bears again. And we finally were able to spot the most adorable mother bear with her little cub rolling around and playing in fresh snow. And it really was one of the most wonderful moments that we had while we were filming. And yeah, that is one of the incredible experiences that I had in the last few years.
Wow, that is so hardcore. I mean, that's an explorer story if I've ever heard one. Facing challenges, sticking to it, keeping your grit up, just like that in the field. I mean, I have to ask, why is it that you do what you do?
Yeah, I think, Challenges honestly are quite exciting, because if there weren't any challenges while telling stories or while making films, I think things would be a little boring. So I think, I'm always up for a challenge. And most importantly, when we talk about how difficult the environment is, how extreme the terrain is, I think it's, all that sort of overridden by the goal that we have as filmmakers. And for me, I really want to make sure that I get these animals across that I see on the field to people's homes and in their screens, so they can really fall in love with these animals, because you can only protect what you love, and I think that's the goal.
Here, here. I mean, 100% behind that statement for all wildlife. Now, you guys have heard it from the expert. You can help wildlife by spreading the words about these animals and telling the stories of these animals. So thank you, Ashika, for bringing us into the field with you for an incredible look at your storytelling work. So many cool stories, and I'm definitely going to watch your elephant documentary when it comes out. Now, it's almost time for the question and answer portion of the show. But first, I have one last question for all of you students. Now that you have observed the animals in your community and thought a little bit about wildlife storytelling, I would like to know, what local wildlife would you like to document? Teachers, type your students' answers into the chat bar. I'll give you a couple seconds to do so. Right. Thank you for sharing some of these responses. I'll tell you what I'm seeing here. Quail, cats, spiders, mountain lions, and bobcats. I don't know where you guys live, but this sounds amazing. Some fish from a student, MJ Mitchell. Student Nash says wolf. Black widow. I think that's a black widow spider from Miss Sanford's third grade. Coyotes, bobcats. Ooh, someone from Miss McMillan's fifth grader said sharks. Nice one. That's like my favorite answer ever. Class 50 says Canadian geese, penguins, turtles. You guys, man, where do you live? Invite me. I want to come see. Thank you for sharing these answers and these thoughtful responses. And I also just want to say, for those of you joining us for the wildlife series, I've got another mission for you. This week, you'll put your storytelling hats on and step into the shoes of an animal and tell wildlife tales. In looking at some of the answers coming in, I see that many species of animals from all over the world are being listed, and I can't wait to see what stories you will tell about them. Educators, keep using the mission completion form and let us know about the work that your students are doing. We'd like to give your class and students a shout out the following students and classes for completing last week's mission, which includes the Fulton School from Missouri, USA, Ramiro Colbe from Tijuana, Mexico, and Park Place Elementary from Texas, USA. Keep up the great work, guys. All right, now it's time to ask Ashika your questions. And if you're watching on YouTube, send us your questions using the chat bar. We record all of them as they're sent in, so please send in each question only once. And teachers, please let us know who's asking the question so we can give your class or student a shout out. And if you're watching on Zoom, use the hand raise function at the bottom of your screen to let me know that your class has a question. We'll call on as many classes as time allows, so if we call on you, remember to prepare a nice, loud voice to ask your question. Next question is coming from Nolan Fox. Nolan from Fox Township Elementary. And he's asking, what do you like most about adventuring?
I think it really is the whole package. Like I said earlier, there are so many challenges, and sometimes when I'm on an expedition and on an adventure, and I'm stuck in very, very freezing temperatures, or if I'm stuck somewhere else with mosquitoes all around me, sometimes I question, am I really enjoying this? But I think it's just everything coming together when you finally see the species that you're looking for so many days or weeks, and when you finally tie the story together that you're trying to make. I think that's the most exciting part of the adventure. And also just all the elements. I think sometimes it can be difficult, but it's just sort of embracing all of it while you're on that adventure.
Mm. Yep. Something tells me you love the challenge. All right. And the next question comes from Mrs. Danielson's fourth grade from New Jersey. Question here is, what is the largest herd of elephants that you have spotted?
That's another great question. I have spotted a herd of around, I haven't spotted one of the really large herds that, that we have in India. The numbers can go up to around 70 elephants, 80 elephants, even more. Those are really large herds. But I've spotted herds that are 20 elephants, 30 elephants. So sort of a medium-sized herd. But I'd love to
Hmm.
spot one of the larger ones.
Yeah, I bet that would be really exciting. What an experience. All right, we'll take another question from YouTube, which is from Wildwood Middle School. And they want to know, what age were you when you knew you were interested in studying wildlife?
Okay, so I haven't studied wildlife, but I knew I wanted to sort of be involved in the wildlife and outdoor space. Um, and I think, that was at a very early age. I was probably around 4 or 5 because I grew up around a lot of nature where I lived. So that was why I knew that I had to I really wanted a job where I could enjoy the nature around me and be a part of the outdoor world and the natural world. And yeah, so I was quite young. I was around 4 or 5, but I have not studied wildlife. I wish I did sometimes.
But you're saying it's never too early to start.
Never too early.
Yeah, that's what I like to
Or
hear.
late.
All right. Now we have a question from YouTube. And Navy wonders, can elephants swim?
Elephants can swim. They're in fact really good swimmers. And in the project that I'm doing at the moment, part of the migration is where just before they cross the border, they have to cross a big flowing river. So that's another challenge that they have to overcome while they're migrating, and they have to swim across this river with very fast currents to get to the other side of the border. So yes, elephants can swim.
That's wild. I cannot imagine such a big animal swimming. All right. Next question comes from Miss Iser's class, also from YouTube, and they want to know, how many miles do elephants travel to migrate, and how fast can an elephant go?
Yeah, so I think the length of migration really varies on the kind of elephant it is, whether if it's an African elephant or an Asian elephant, and also which country it's from, and yeah, and basically what's going on in the country at the moment. But I'm not sure if anyone remembers, but a couple years ago there was a very long migration that happened in China, where elephants migrated around 500 kilometers, I think, through the country. They were doing a huge migration, which was sort of unheard of, and I think that was one of the longest migrations recorded. But these elephants that I'm filming in eastern India, I think they migrate around 20 to 30 kilometers overall during their migration.
Whoa, 20 to 30 kilometers. That's like what, 10 to 20 miles or something like that?
That's right. Yeah.
We have one more question for you, Ashika, and that is, what final message do you have for the student explorers watching today?
So one final message that I have for all you student explorers is that stories have a lot more power than we think, and to tell stories about wildlife or the natural world or anything else, honestly, that you feel strongly about is really one of the best ways to create change or an impact in today's world. And there really has never been a better time to get your message across through stories than now. and also just to observe the world around you. Sometimes, we get so caught up with all the technology and everything else that's going on, but to sort of look up and look at the world around you and see what's happening, and stories are everywhere.
Here, here. I fully co-sign that message. So thank you to Eshika for joining us today and inspiring us with your work in that final message.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I also just want to say thank you to all the students for engaging with us today and for your very thoughtful questions. As I mentioned earlier, if you are participating as part of the wildlife series, this week your mission is to tell wildlife tales. In your last mission, you recorded wildlife observations from around your community on a map. This week, you will pick an animal that you're interested in and imagine what a day in the life of that animal is like. And then you'll write a little diary entry from the point of view of that animal. Teachers, please use the educator guide to learn more about this mission. Next week, we will be joined by explorer Fernando Trujillo, who will tell us about his amazing collaboration with the local fishing community to help protect the playful pink river dolphin in the Amazon River. Thank you, teachers, for bringing your classes to our show. Share about your experiences with us on social media using the hashtag ExplorerClassroom. Lastly, we would love to hear from you. So teachers, please take a moment to fill out this quick survey and let us know how you enjoyed today's show. The link is in the chat. And from all of us at National Geographic, have a wonderful day, stay curious, and keep exploring. We'll see you next time on Explorer Classroom. Bye-bye.